with the top 10 pitchers right now going into 2023. We have our first annual OBP consensus. And I love saying the word consensus because there's a couple players on there where we did not have up and down. So I want to definitely get your thoughts on them. But let's go ahead and break them down. We want to start with number 10. And number 10, and I just noticed that I just see your list, not the consensus list. So let me pull that up real fast while I'm doing that. This is going to be a fun list. Let's just say that there was a player that you had at number 2 that I didn't even have listed, and then I was pretty upset that I forgot about him. So he definitely made the list. All right, let's start off with number 10. And I think number 10 is a really interesting one. Some people might say he's higher. I don't think you can make the argument that he doesn't belong there. However, that's just my thoughts. And that's Framber Valdez. I think Framber Valdez is going to be, he's obviously a fantastic. What he did in the World Series last year, in my opinion, alone deserves him in the top 10. However, he's had some great seasons over the last 2 years, especially 3.7 WAR last year, 2.82 ERA. He was just fantastic in his 31 games started. He's only 28 years old. You know there's more to come. We just saw Christian Javier get an extension from the Astros. I don't think we're going to see a big extension from Valdez because of his 28 years, but it could happen. Dana Brown, I don't think he's done yet for what they're going to do with this Houston Astros team. And Valdez might be one of those guys as well that stick around, but he makes our list at number 10. What's your thoughts about Valdez?
Yeah, he might be the best number 10 pitcher on any list you'll ever see. Right. Just a special talent, for the Houston Astros. Looking at that crisp 2.82 ERA. What impresses me most, though, is the over 200 innings pitched, which is almost a rarity now in Major League Baseball. And then he kind of matches that with 194 strikeouts. So 200 innings, 200 strikeouts is not a bad day's season's worth of work. Can he replicate that will be the question moving forward. And the projections look very good. He went 17-6 last season. Projections have him anywhere 13-9 to 15-7 with an ERA less than 3.3. This guy is going to be just as good next year. And the question for me really is, can he get even better? The projections say he'll be right around the same spot, but I mean, if he gets even better, watch out.
Yeah, I am super excited for this Houston Astros team this year. Obviously, a lot of question marks about the pitching staff of at least there's a big question. I would say a lot of question marks. There's a big question saying, what will they be without Justin Verlander? I think they'll be just fine. Let's just say that. I think they will be just fine. At number 9, let's talk about your Toronto Blue Jays. There's plenty. I think there's a couple names that you could add to this list. Kevin Gausman, honorable mention. However, number 9, we're going to give it to Alex Manoah. What a fantastic player for Alec here. I mean, you talk about your friend over at Jason from the Couch, the On Feck Circle. Always loves this Alec Manoah. Steve Feck talking about his West Virginia roots. But yes, Alec Manoah, just a fantastic player. I love seeing the projections for him on Baseball Reference because they see him having basically a 1-to-1 inning pitch to strikeout, and that's one of my favorite things to pay attention to with pitchers. But last year, his actual stats, just under 200 innings pitched, 180 strikeouts. This guy is absolutely amazing. And the crazy thing about it, Sean, and I know you know this, he is only 25 years old. Toronto is going to have to pay this guy a lot of money, and it'll be worth every single penny in the future.
Yeah, and I think probably the main reason why he's only in the 9th spot is just because it was his first kind of full season in the big leagues. 2021, he only pitched 111 innings. It's still 3.22 ERA. Thank you very much. But last season was kind of his coming out party, the All-Star game, making his first All-Star in his first full season. And then, of course, striking out the side, mic'd up. Like, this is not just a special talent on the mound, but this is a guy that, and obviously speaking from my perspective, as somebody who covers the Blue Jays, This is somebody who fans can really easily fall in love with. He's out on social media calling out Garrett Cole for sticky tack. He's out calling out MLB analysts for this, that, and the other thing, for making stupid comments. He'll rush to his teammates' aid to defend stupid comments made about them. He's a guy who will play with a lot of fire and energy. He's a bulldog, and is somebody that I think is going to take Major League Baseball by storm, and much in the same way as a Jazz Chisholm, except on the pitching mound.
I completely feel in my mind that when we get to the second annual pitching rankings next year, Manoah will be in our top 5. And I don't think that that's going to be an issue at all. I think he's going to be one. He's going to have such a huge breakout year, or just have just as great of a season as he did this year, enough to be a big time all-star. We're going to be talking a lot about Alek Manoah this season. Let's talk about a player who led the American League in strikeouts last year, and that is Garrett Cole. He sits in our number 8 spot. Garrett Cole has had some interesting years with New York. Obviously, we know what he did in Houston in 2019. He had 326 strikeouts, which was absolutely insane. But he has now led the American League twice in strikeouts. Last season, he did it with 257, 200 innings pitched. I mean, he's 32 years old, and he is still putting up 200 plus innings. This guy is an absolute workhorse, and obviously the ace for the New York Yankees. Moving forward, you have to see what's next for him. I think we're going to continue to see him do some fantastic things for this squad. I think they're going to keep New York. He's going to keep New York in the running when he's up to pitch. Last season, he was 13-8, had a 3.5 ERA, a little high compared to what we've seen from him in years past, but I think he'll figure that out again this year, especially I think with the defensive shifts going on. The shifts are going to be interesting, but I think Garrett Cole will be just fine. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's funny how when he first went to Houston and had that 2019 season where he put up 7.5 FWAR, and then promptly signed with New York and all of that stuff. It felt like he was like the best pitcher in baseball, and now he's might be the best pitcher in baseball that nobody talks about. It's really interesting, we with DeGrom and Scherzer and Verlander getting all the headlines, and then of course the young guys coming up getting all the headlines, and Garrett Cole is almost kind of quietly going about being his dominant self. And of course, as a Blue Jays fan, that's like super friggin' annoying. But I mean, you got to give him his props. He's absolutely one of the best pitchers in baseball, probably the best strikeout pitcher in the American League, certainly. And so, and what I think really gets me, I'm just looking at his velocity. 2013, when he broke in with the Pirates, 96.8 fastball velocity on average. Last season, 2022. So at age 22. 2013, his velocity just under 97. And in 2022, at age 31, his velocity went up by a full mile per hour. That to me is fascinating. And whether or not that has anything to do with sticky stuff or anything like that, I'm not going to get into that here and now, because I don't think that's the place for it. I think Garrett Cole, this is about giving him the respect that he deserves. And he may come out this coming season, and have yet another monster season, which is good because the Yankees need him to, with all of the injuries that are happening to their rotation, and we haven't even played a game yet. So Garrett Cole, hats off. This will be the last time I speak so kindly of Garrett Cole.
I was going to ask you, how hard was that? How hard was that? Because you did a good job. You did a fantastic job.
I'm bleeding on the inside of my cheek.
Yeah. Let's move on to number 7 here. Max Scherzer sits at number 7. Yeah. Old timer. I mean, just doesn't age whatsoever. What he's doing on the mound is just incredible. 38 years old. Been in the league now 15 years, going on his year 16 season. Second year with the Mets. Last year had 11-5 record, 145 innings pitched. I mean, it's just absolutely. I think you can make the argument, and I don't even know if it's an argument. I think this is facts now, that this was the contract that he signed with the Washington Nationals might be the best contract that any team has ever done with a pitcher. I mean, what he did for the Nationals was just absolutely incredible. And usually you see those long contracts and they kind of fade out at the end. And we're seeing that with Washington now, kind of with Strasburg and his injuries. But Scherzer worked through every single of those seasons, was fantastic all the way until he was traded to the Dodgers in 2021, where he posted a 7-0 record for the Dodgers and got them all the way into the playoffs and the World Series that year. So, yes, Max Scherzer is incredible. I think that we are going to see another fantastic season from him. Projections state that he will go 172 strikeouts in only 151 innings. Again, that's one of my favorite stats to look at. And they think he's going to post an 11-6 record at age 38. How do the Mets in Max Scherzer look like as you sit him in the OPP rankings of number 7?
Yeah, it almost feels unfair that he's in the 7th spot considering the resume that he has. I mean, drafted 3 rounds before Sandy Koufax. This guy has been in the league forever, and it's just what he continues to do. I mean, we're like, just take one stat, just randomly looking here. Strikeouts per 9 innings in 2019, 12.69. And then you're seeing that steadily kind of decline, but even still almost 11 per 9 innings. So he's still got it, which is just, as somebody who is started falling apart around the age 38. It just blows my mind. And the command as well, the ability to limit free passes. Projections for his ERA are just over 3, still at age 38. I mean, even if he doesn't pitch in 2023, he's still in the 7th spot on this list.
Yeah, absolutely insane. I cannot wait to watch Scherzer pitch this season. All right, let's move on to number 6. And I think this is an interesting one here. Number 6 is going to go to Jacob deGrom. Now, I can see many people say Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher in all of baseball. I would agree with you if he is healthy. And that is why I think we both moved him down on our list. That is a big reason why, at least in my opinion. There's also some other reasons, but Jacob deGrom, when he is healthy, yes, you can make the argument that he's one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. In 2021, when he was healthy, he posted a 1.08 ERA. In 2018, and is one of his last full seasons, he posted a 1.7 ERA. He hasn't pitched over 100 innings since 2019. Now, 2020, he would have got there, but we know what happened in 2020. But the last 2 seasons, he's had 92 innings and 64 innings, respectfully. Projections only give him at 101 innings pitched this year, so they're still projecting that he will not be fully healthy all the way through this year. I just want to see him get up and back to that 140 range at least. I'd love to see him get back to 180. I just don't think that's ever going to happen in his career again. But get him back in the 140, 150 inning pitch range, then we can talk about him moving up this list in my mind. However, until that happens, deGrom sits at number 6 on the list for first annual OBP top 10 pitchers list.
Yeah, I think when we've mentioned almost every pitcher we've mentioned thus far, we've talked about that 200 inning plateau, right? And I think that's incredibly important when you're talking about a staff ace, which is, when you were looking at a top 10 list, that's almost 10 staff aces. We're going to have an exception here coming up, but 9 aces are on this list, and that's kind of key, right? Somebody who can anchor that rotation and carry that rotation. And for me, obviously the health is the biggest question. But also when you combine that with the fact that he's 34, you don't tend to suddenly find major league top quality health at age 34. So the history of injuries scares me. So that's, I think, why, and as you said, that's why he is where he is. However, if he is healthy, don't look. What was his strikeout percentage last season? Just off the top of your head.
Oof. Man, it's got to be 24%.
42.7.
Wow.
So Jacob deGrom struck out 43% of batters. Like, that is insane. It's almost like I don't think I've ever seen a strikeout percentage that high. I can't remember that. So health is the key. Healthy. Right. That's just it. Right. And so the fact that I would not bet any kind of money that he's going to be healthy. So that's unfortunate because, man, he's got so much talent.
Yeah, if we saw a healthy Jacob deGrom last year, this list would look a lot different. He would probably
Yeah.
sit in our number one spot, maybe number two, maybe. But if that was he was a healthy, if he was healthy one of those last 2 years, that
Hmm.
list would look a lot different. But we haven't seen him healthy since the 2020 season, a shortened season, and we haven't seen him in a full payload since 2019. Maybe that changes this year. Highly doubt it. But until then, he sits at number 6. Moving to number 5, you heard his name on the list last week as a batter. Well, this is a two-way player, Shohei Ohtani. He sits at number 5 and the top 10 pitchers list. Look, Shohei Ohtani is absolutely insane. Between the two-way players, 9.6 WAR last season. But let's talk about just his pitching in 2022. 15-9 record. He had a 2.33 ERA in 28 games pitched, 166 innings pitched, 219 strikeouts in 166 innings. That is unreal. That is unheard of in my mind. That usually it's like a really close to 1-to-1 ratio. This is outstanding. This is insane. Shohei Ohtani is doing amazing things on the mound. I mean, I almost feel bad for putting him at number 5 when we look at these stats and talk about it. He'll probably make us eat our words. But until then, because we put him on both lists, we didn't want to put him at the very top on both. However, I think we both can agree if we are having a top 10 overall, he'd be sitting at our number 1. Shohei Ohtani, number 5 in our top 10 pitchers list.
Yeah, and I feel at this point, there's only so much you can say about Shohei Ohtani that hasn't been said already. Just an unbelievable, exceptional talent, and the question will be, what are the Angels going to do with him? Are they going to ask him to pitch every 5th day to increase his workload? I can't imagine that they would be that insane, because you're risking a lot by doing that. So that will be the real kind of determining factor, I think, as far as where he ends up on this list at the end of the season. But as of right now, it's very tough to bet against him. Super, just every kind of possible, like I'm out of words when we're talking about this guy, but I want to see what the Angels are going to do with him, given the comments from Nevins earlier that we talked about.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what happens with Shohei Ohtani. I'm
Yeah.
excited to move to the West Coast because more of their games will be at relatively good hours for me to watch, and I don't have to worry about watching games that start at 10 o'clock at night, so I can pay attention to him pitching or batting, wherever the case will be. My eyes will be glued when he's up on the mound or up the bat. All right, number 4. This one is near and dear to my heart, as you know. Old Dominion's very own Justin Verlander. He sits at number 4 on our list. What he did last year was absolutely incredible. Again, talking about another old timer here, 39 years old. He's about to turn 40. He's turning 40 just in a few days, actually. He is going to be 40 years old in 2023. He came back from Tommy John surgery in 2022 and just went off. I mean, obviously, Cy Young winner, 18 wins. He had a 1.75 ERA. I don't think you can name another player who has had a better return from Tommy John surgery than Justin Verlander did in 2022. I don't think there is one. And that's why he sits at number 4 on our list. The longevity of this player is just absolutely amazing. I know we'll see a lot of Astro fans on here saying that he was awful in the offseason and the playoffs. So what? Don't care. What he's done in these seasons are just incredible. And we're going to see him do some amazing things, especially for all that money in New York with the Mets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not somebody who puts a whole lot of stock in the small sample size of a postseason. There's so much else that goes into somebody's performance there. What's interesting to me, though, is that almost 40 years old, coming off of Tommy John surgery, and he comes back and puts up a season like he did last year. It wasn't. I don't know how to say this other than it wasn't necessarily vintage Justin Verlander, but it was still friggin' good Justin Verlander. So you're starting to see that decline. But if you're going to decline, you want to decline like Justin Verlander is, because he's still, as obviously, what are we at here? Number 4, still the 4th best pitcher in all of baseball.
That's right. All right, number 3. I think this is going to be probably our most controversial pick of the list, in my opinion, and I think we're going to hear it out there too. However, I agree with you. This is the player that I actually left off my list initially. When you sent me your list, I said, how did the hell did I miss Aaron Nola? So I redid my list, sent it back to you, and consensusly, this is where this happened. Aaron Nola sits at number 3 on our list of the OBP top 10 pitchers of 2023. Last year, 6.0 WAR. His record wasn't amazing, 11-13. Did have a 3.25 ERA in 32 games, but what he can do is just absolutely insane. I mean, we've seen some fantastic things from Aaron Nola, even in 2022. 205 innings pitched, an absolute workhorse. In those 205 innings, 235 strikeouts. He's had over 200 strikeouts in 4 of his last 5 seasons, and that 5th season is 2020, so he probably would have had it that year as well if it was a full year. He is a Mr. Reliable, if you will, in the last few seasons, and I think that's why we put him pretty high on our list at number 3, Sean.
Oh, absolutely. If you're looking at the picture of stability, he might be it. Just the ability to, and we've kind of mentioned already, we put an emphasis here on the guys who can pitch 200 innings and rack up the strikeouts like he can. So to me, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a guy who can, excuse me, do just that. He's healthy, and the ability to dominate when he dominates is it's a pretty special thing, and the ability to hold batters like last season. So this is what kind of bugs me about statistics and the baseball metrics, right? The back of the baseball card numbers, you look at wins and losses, and he's like 11-13. Well, man, that's not very good at all. But the ability to hold a batter to like a 218 average, the ability to strike out 30%, the ability to hold home runs. So home runs per 9, under 1 last season. So doing all the right things and doing them well. I love me some Aaron Nola.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Aaron Nola is going to have another great season. Now with Philadelphia, as they come off their World Series trip, what will happen with this squad? Nola finally has that off his belt, at least, that he's made it there. He's been there.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's see what's next for this one. Number 2, Corbin Burnes sits in the 2 spot. This is an interesting one as well. People might have him at number 1. We sit him at number 2 in this one. What he's done the last couple seasons has been absolutely incredible. Don't get me wrong. He led the National League in strikeouts last year with 243, had a 2.94 ERA with 12-8 record in 33 games started. Again, 202 innings pitched. Corbin Burnes is another one of those workhorses. He's on a fantastic pitching rotation squad. And dare I say, let's bring it back to our NL West division preview here, Sean. I stated that Corbin Burnes will be traded this season, and I'm going to stand by it. I'm going to even put it in this top 10 conversation. Corbin Burnes, number 2 on our list, but he's going to be number 2 for 2 teams this year. Not sure the other team will be a team to be named later.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking the same thing, when we're looking at, he went 12-8 for the Brewers, and he won't be playing for the Brewers the full season, which is unfortunate for fans of the Brewers, because he's a special, special talent. However, the reality of baseball is that stars tend to go other places sometimes. So enjoy him while you can, because he's going to give you a whole bunch to enjoy. The 2.94 ERA is projected at an ERA just over 3 next season. And what's interesting to me when I look at an ERA, I also looked at the fielding independent pitching, so the FIP, just to kind of take the defense out of there. And his FIP last season was indicated to me that his ERA is right on point where it should be. Next season, his FIP actually projects to be lower than his ERA. So he's doing everything he can control. One thing I'll be watching for, though, is his home run to fly ball rate last season was 14%. I'd like to see that come down to maybe his 2020 level of 6%. So if he can cut that in half, that would be just, icing on an already delicious cake.
Absolutely. Corbin Burns, let's see where you end up at the end of 2023. I don't think it's going to be with the Milwaukee Brewers. All right, we're at number one. Before we finish off our list of the first annual OBP top 10 consensus pitchers of 2023, let's recap. At number 10, we had Framber Valdez from the Houston Astros. Number 9, Alek Manoah of the Toronto Blue Jays. Number 8, Garrett Cole of New York Yankees. Number 7, Max Scherzer of the New York Mets. Number 6, Jacob deGrom of the now Texas Rangers. Number 5 sits Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher. At number 4, Justin Verlander of the now New York Mets. Number 3, Aaron Nola of the Philadelphia Phillies. And we just talked about number 2, Corbin Burns of the now, for right now, Milwaukee Brewers. And let's talk about number 1. And number 1, and I thought this was an easy pick in my mind, Sandy Alcantara. I thought he was just fantastic last year for the Marlins. I mean, you talk about workhorse, 228 innings. He led all of the National League in this one. He led the all major leagues in that one. He faced 886 batters last year. I mean, absolutely incredible. 207 strikeouts in that time. What he did, he threw 6 complete games. I mean, we talk about workhorses. He threw 6 complete. You just don't see that anymore. Sandy threw 6 of them. And that's just going to be something we've seen him throw 1 in 2021, 6 in 2022. I mean, are we going to get 5 more? We're going to get 11 from him this year? I don't see that happening, but it's always fun to dream, right? With obviously Pablo Lopez heading out, they bring in Johnny Cueto into the Miami Marlins bullpen. This is going to be an interesting rotation, if you will. But obviously, Sandy will lead the charge. Every time he's on the mound, he is must-watch TV. That is not going to change this season. It really makes you wonder why St. Louis didn't hold on to him in 2017 after all their needs and pitching. And then Miami's just done some fantastic things. But however, Sandy Alcantara, our number 1 for OBP top 10 pitchers of 2023.
And just out of curiosity, while you were talking there, I wanted to look up how many complete games there were in 2022. With and he obviously led the way with 6. And I wondered, to me, like, that has to be approaching the total for all of Major League Baseball. I was wrong. Framber Valdez on our list here had 3 of them. Nathan Eovaldi had 2. Aaron Nola on our list had 2. And then, of course, there's a number of guys who had 1 complete game.
But second place was 3, you said.
Exactly. And that's the real point here, right? Like, this guy, when we're talking about, we've said it multiple times on this show already, you need a workhorse in that spot, and he is living up to that. What is interesting to me is that I guess the line on him was that he may actually end up to be a reliever, a 2-pitch kind of reliever, a good one, obviously, but he's kind of blown that out of the water completely. It's too bad that he'll be pitching for the Marlins again, because they're in that really incredibly tough division. But maybe it's a good thing. He can just go out there and pitch as well as he can, and keep doing what he's been doing. Is he going to be as dominant? Is he going to win another Cy Young Award? Maybe not. The projections have him taking a step back from where he was last year. His ERA at 2.28, now projected in the kind of mid-3s, low to mid-3s. So, is he going to be as dominant again? Who knows? However, he's the reigning Cy Young Award winner. You cannot bet against that, right? Yeah. So until somebody unseats him, he's the best pitcher in the National League.
There was a reason why Kim Nang and the Marlins front office stated that every pitcher was up for grabs except Sandy Alcantara. And the reason is because they knew that OBP was going to put them as the number 1 on the top 10 rankings.